not in Hawaii anymore.
Thanks, Mason.
All right. Call this meeting to order. It's 6:31. Just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here. I know it's the last meeting of the year, approaching the holidays, and time is precious. So thank you for being here. Just want to say, in my temporary role here, just if we could just keep Carrie and her family in our thoughts as she navigates, the personal situations that they're going through. So just want to raise that up. And also ask for your grace. I know there was some email communication hiccups, as I think Bunny mentioned, a glitch in the matrix. So I just want to thank you all for your grace and as we navigate this moment. So we'll start off with an acknowledgement of tribal lands. Hunter has agreed to graciously provide that for us.
Thank you, Jeremy. Niti Yagalidu. On behalf of the King County Democrats, I acknowledge the land on which we stand today as the traditional home of the Coast Salish and Duwamish tribes and the traditional home of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, Snoqualmie, and Muckleshoot nations. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, and gathered upon these lands in a balanced and sustainable manner. We thank them as the original caretakers of these lands and waters and for their continued advocacy and stewardship. Furthermore, we recognize the invaluable contributions from these and all tribes to our state, history, economy, and culture. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We'll strive to be honest about our past mistakes and trespasses and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter. All right, and we'll move on to our consent agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to adopt our consent agenda.
Melissa Taylor, so moved.
Second, Bunny Hatcher.
All right, moved by Melissa Taylor, seconded by Bunny Hatcher. Any discussion? All right, any objection to adoption of the consent agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Okay, thank you. Consent agenda adopted. We'll move on to hear from our state party chair, Shasti Conrad, about the results from the elections and also a little bit of update about the delegate selection timeline. So glad to have you here, Shasti, and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair. It's great to be here with everybody. I think this is my first time coming back officially in this role to greet all of you and be with you. It's this past year I have traveled the entire state. I have made it to every corner. We've been keeping track. I've almost made it to every single county in LD, very close. But King County is always like it's home. When I see you all out in the world and I hear what you're doing, and then when I come back, it always feels just right to come back and be here with all of you. So it's really great to be here. Let me start by just thanking everybody for all of the work that you put in this past election cycle, both in the primary and in the general. These odd year elections, you all have heard me talk about this for years, are incredibly tough. It's so tough to get above all of the noise, to get people energized and knowledgeable about the fact that there's even an election, right? It's the hardest work when we are having to do so much to help really incredible community members step forward because they want to help their communities, to step forward into these roles and to do all of this. And so I know how hard everybody worked and all the time spent. So I just want to start by just saying a big thank you and just how much it matters. There's no other way to do this, right? There's just, it is blood, sweat, and tears, over and over again, and it is being tired and getting back up and doing it again and feeling frustrated and getting back up and doing it again. That's what it is. I think the results from around the state, there's a lot actually to be really excited about and really thrilled. We at the state party put a lot of time and energy and resources into the Spokane mayor's race and Spokane City Council. I'm sure many of you probably know the backstory there, but that city went 60% for Biden, for Patty Murray, but has been led by a Republican for the past 12 years. Nadine Woodward, who we handily defeated, had been a sort of mentee of Kathy McMorris Rodgers, and the Kathy McMorris Rodgers kind of funding spigot had been turned on for Nadine. And Lisa Brown, who had been the state Senate majority leader and had led commerce and has been such a champion and a leader for all of Washington state, decided to step forward and run for mayor, and barely won, but we did it at 51.47% won that seat, and we're thrilled. But it was, again, proof point of just like every single thing we did mattered. Every phone call, every door knocked, every text message, all of it. And the state party received a state party innovation fund grant from the DNC to put towards organizing efforts. We did some work with a group that sort of works with social media influencers to see if we could connect with young people. And we did get a number of new voters, first-time voters participating in that race. So we do think that work mattered. We also produced a really fun attack ad against Nadine Woodward that played during the Seahawks game on the Sunday before Election Day, and on during Jeopardy on the Monday before Election Day. And so we were really proud of that work. And then 3 out of the 4 city council members won their seats. First Black woman, Betsy Wilkerson, became city council president in Spokane. And so we're really thrilled there. The other little passion project that I had was the city of Sunnyside, which is right outside of Yakima. It's 70% Latino community. The 3 incumbents were all white men who had won by less than 100 votes. One had only won by 1 vote previously. And we had 2 really incredible Latino candidates running, and 2 out of the 3 won and got those seats. And it's really a sort of incredible moment and can make a real difference in that community. And so I've been just really sort of kind of on air on like just excited and proud that we pulled that off. Statewide, Moms for Liberty and the school board races lost handily. I think only 9 out of, I believe, 68 of their endorsed candidates in Washington state won. Nationally, they got their, I was gonna say a bad word, but they got their butts handed to them. They less than 20% won their seats nationally. And so, we did it, right? We did the hard work. There are some places where a few of them did get through, but mostly they were just hot air and noise. And they had a convention the week before Thanksgiving in Bellevue that my counterpart, Jim Walsh, the head of the state GOP, was the keynote for. And they're just like an echo chamber. They're just talking to each other, but they're not actually good at winning and organizing. So I think that was a massive victory. And then, down in CD3, we were watching the races to see if the work from Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, if that organizing infrastructure that got built up would carry through for the locals. And we did hold on to the port seats down there and the school board seats down there that we were watching. In Snohomish County, neighbors to the north, they beat Adam Fortney, who is the white supremacist cop that I know. I just saw Ann Udaloy's name on there. Ann Udaloy led the recall efforts and did a lot of work and helped a ton on the Susanna Johnson race. And so I want to give her all the flowers she deserves for her help on that race. And we're thrilled to get Susanna Johnson across the line again. Very close. I think it ended up being, and probably know the exact number, but around 51.5% that Susie won by. And then in Whatcom County, we elected the first Black sheriff. Chief Tanksley won up there, and so that's a really big deal. Our next year, our two primary legislative districts that have our sort of priority seats are up in that area. The 42nd will need to protect the state Senate seat up there, and LD10 we're looking to flip the state Senate seat up there. So it was great to see Whatcom, Skagit, Snohomish, the sort of northwestern corner of the state have good turnout and have successes up there. And then I know you're right after me, you all are going to unpack King County. I think certainly, we have to address the elephant in the room, which is that, Seattle City Council, it was hard, right? It's just, it's difficult. And they are Democrats. They say they're Democrats. So, from the state party level, we have to say, like, welcome. But, I know who you all were supporting, and we're going to have to just continue to do the work to hold them accountable. But I think the east side of King County, you have so much to be so proud of. I know there were real concerns about Bellevue turning conservative, and it was so great and awesome to see all those efforts come together. Mason getting reelected, and our friends in Bothell and whatnot, just great. Sammamish, we had great successes throughout, particularly the sort of east side of King County and South King County as well. My biggest takeaway from the results in King County is just even year elections. It's even year elections, campaign finance reform, and then the C4 organizations and the donors need to get in alignment, because we don't have a counter to the kind of money that comes in from like the realtors and those groups. And our side gets sort of split in their attention a lot of times. And I think we just have to recognize that they are playing chess and we've been playing a little bit of checkers. So we have to get very focused if we want to continue to win or try to win against those kind of money forces. And we need to make sure that we are getting candidates that are ready, not the year that the race happens, but like in the years ahead. How are we building the bench, not just electorally, but in getting people ready with the skills, the background, the experience, the name recognition, to be able, the resumes, to be able to do this work. Because I do think that is a challenge. And, we just have to continue to do this. And, I just think even years are going to be, even the Seattle Times last week was writing about how hard it is in odd years when you have such tough turnout. So, so that's my sort of analysis of all the work we did this past cycle. Again, thank you everyone for all of that. I can pause for a second, and if folks have any questions or comments related to the 23 election results work before I move into the delegate selection plan, I'm happy to take a few questions.
Any questions? All right.
Okay, great. All right.
A
I said
couple
two.
questions. Yeah. Tara?
Yeah.
So my question is, what do you feel about the trade-offs of moving, if the legislature were to move to even year elections? That trying to get, I understand that there's trade-offs, right? Like,
yeah,
there's no way that you're going to be able to get city council to the top of people's minds when they're looking at Senate, governor, presidential races. And yet, obviously, the turnout is going to be significantly bigger.
Yeah, I mean, look, the data shows time and time again that when more people are voting, more progressive people win. That has just carried through both here in our own state in Washington, but in other states. Los Angeles last year moved to even year elections, and that meant that 800,000 more people participated in their mayoral election, and Karen Bass won and beat the billionaire, more sort of business dem. So when I'm looking at the data, that gives me, I'm always going to say that if more people are voting, that is a positive thing. And when we look at that, our numbers, we didn't even hit 45% this year. That I just got an alert this afternoon from the Seattle Times. It was like the lowest sort of modern turnout that we've had in like a decade. So we just have to be honest about that. We are expecting next year that 80 to 90% of people will vote next year. So when I look at that for me is enough for me to believe that it is worth that trade-off. Additionally, with the work that Senator Patty Cooter led, and like folks like Andrew Villeneuve and whatnot, with Northwest Progressive Institute, with getting rid of all of the advisory votes, that shortened up the ballot, right? So the concerns previously were that you were going to have a, 10-page ballot because there's a lot of times a ton of space wasted on those advisory votes. Those are now not, those are done. So we've cleared those out, which makes the ballot shorter. So I think that you will have people who will participate and who will go ahead and fill out the ballot. This is just me. This is what I believe. Obviously, the legislature is going to make their decisions. I'm not saying this as like this is agreed upon policy from the state party, but as I have looked at the data, that is the conclusion that I am coming to, and that is what I'm hearing more and more of the sort of partners in the space coming to as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Dara. Paul?
Yeah, hi, Shasti. A question I have is, particularly in the Seattle race, there were some demonstrably, how to put this? There were some candidates who strongly held positions that were in opposition to the state platform. Are there things that we can do to help enforce party discipline with how we provide or don't provide support and resources to these candidates who are in opposition to our platform? That's one question. Second, are there things we can do to help prominent politicians not endorse these bad candidates?
When you say resources, do you mean like Vote Builder in particular, or do you mean sort of
particularly Vote Builder?
Yeah. So the Vote Builder policy, which has been the last couple of years, has been that if there is LPO sign off, that this is a Democrat in good standing, they receive Vote Builder access. They can have their Vote Builder access revoked if there is evidence of them using it in an unlawful manner, sharing data with Republicans, but we need some sort of evidence to be able to make that determination to actually like revoke. And in fact, in 21, King County was a part of helping to remove Jim Farrell's access because of his outright or being at a rally that was supported by white supremacists. So I understand, and we definitely did hear from several folks around frustrations that people that were given Vote Builder access feeling like that they weren't upholding the platform and whatnot. I think there's probably room to have a discussion around how we can provide better checks to keep people accountable to, you need to be able to hold be in alignment with the platform, and if you are speaking against the platform in X, Y, and Z ways, then that could potentially be reasons to revoke your access, or not, or to have you not get access to Vote Builder. But that's going to take review, and that probably we should just have more conversations about that. And then the thing with endorsements, it's people have a right to endorse who they believe, who they want to. We don't have much leverage to be able to keep people from not. I mean, what I have been actively working on this past year is trying to build better relationships with our electeds so that we have a stronger leverage point from the party. I'm talking a little bit out of school, but I think some of the impression that some of our electeds have is that, you know, they come to see us when it's election time, but, you know, we don't always provide volunteers for them. We don't give them candidate contributions. We don't have much leverage to be able to actually help them to win elections, and therefore they don't see us as the party being absolutely necessary to do what we would like them to do, right? And so I have been actively trying to like build better relationships there so that folks can see the value of our local party organizations participating with us, doing the work, getting our support, feeling like that's valuable, so that there are greater and more broad leverage points that we have to be able to hold those folks accountable. But I think that's relationship building. And, you know, it's going to take a minute to be able to get there.
Okay. Thanks for those good insights.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Shasti. Chris? Chris Porter? We'll come back to Chris. Kat?
Hey, Trustee. Great to see you. Wondering if there's anything on your legislative agenda with regard to elections or good government policy this year. And so that's a complete departure from anything you already talked about. And perfectly happy to put that in the parking lot if that's more appropriate.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, I think we're excited to have Representative Ramos, you know, leading the elections committee and working with Javier Valdez and Patty Kuderer in the state Senate on, you know, elections and whatnot. You know, we've had some conversations around ranked choice voting. We've had conversations around even year elections. You know, I don't know if Chris is there and can hear, but we've been having conversations around moving the the conservation district onto a regular ballot and trying to make it so that, you know, we're making it easier for people to vote, and that those elections that are sort of these like one-off odd special elections, that we can move those into a sort of more, you know, kind of a May, August, November schedule rather than, you know, February or April or whatever that is when folks just, there's not as much attention on them. So I think those are the places where, you know, we're certainly watching and paying attention. And then other than that, you know, we're just hoping that we can get some really good legislation passed that our folks can run on, and that will be encouraging and exciting for turnout, so that, you know, we have things that people are proud to support Democrats, that we can talk about. And so those are the things that you know, we're having regular conversations about what does that look like, and making sure that they have that in their minds while they are in session.
Thank you. Thanks, Kat. Chris, are you there now?
I believe I am.
All right.
Yes. Good to see you, Shasti. Shasti, what I was going to say is two things. Someone had commented on discipline of the party, and this particular season, Democrats are, well, and always, Democrats are very good at outrage and giving feedback when dog whistling or things that are said horribly about our candidates of choice. But when it comes from within the party, we lack the discipline, I think, of holding that candidate responsible for those statements that run counter to things that we believe in. And there was a fair amount of that in a couple of the elections for city council and other races. But I also wanted to ask, do you think it's possible that the interpretation of the ballot being too long, and then there is some validity in that, was overshadowed the reality or the bigger message that it's easier to motivate and engage people in the even year than the odd year. And that just has been a nagging trend for the 18 years that I have lived in King County, and it hasn't changed regardless of the length of the ballot. And I'm wondering if we have missed that interpretation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I have not seen that analysis anywhere where folks have looked at comparison over the years of lengths of ballots, and the percent, because you can actually track the percentage of how much of a ballot someone has filled out. You can sort of see that drop off of kind of where there's fewer votes in certain races. And I don't think that analysis happened. I think that's an actually really good point, Chris, and something that we can potentially look into. But I think you're right. I mean, like I said, when Tara was asking that question, is like, I just haven't seen, like, all of the data that I'm seeing is just telling me that because of the apparatus and the infrastructure that happens, predominantly, honestly, from the media that plays out in even year elections, is what is helping with turnout. And we just do not have that in the same way in the odd years. And therefore, when you look at over and over and over again, you're looking at between 35% and 45% of people voting in an odd year, no matter who's on the ballot, no matter whether there's a, hot ballot initiative or whatever it might be, versus in an even year when you are getting 80 to 90% consistently now for many, many years. I just don't see how you come to any other conclusion that there's something to that needs to, be dealt with. So, but good point taken, and I will take that back to our team to see if maybe we can look into doing a little bit of research around that. And then on the discipline around, sort of in intra-party conflict, and, where we can stand up for our folks or call out where need be. Yeah, I mean, I think wherever we can build in accountability is going to be very important and is valuable. But we also have to earn trust to be able to do that. Because if the trust isn't there, no one cares whether we're yelling at them or not yelling at them or asking them to commit to anything or not commit to anything. We have to continue to build those relationships so people see that there's value in us holding them accountable or them working with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Beth, we'll end with you with your question before moving on to the delegate selection timeline.
Thanks, Jeremy. Super easy question for Shasti. Hi, Shasti. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm just wondering if there's another avenue for candidates to receive vote builder access other than LPO sign-off. For instance, can they come directly to the county? Can they come directly to the state? How does that work for those that the LPOs don't necessarily interact with at that level?
They can go to you all to sort of like almost like pre-get the sign off, but we at the state are the ones who control access to vote builder. And so, at the end of the day, we are the ones who will determine that. But certainly as candidates come to you all, and if you already know them or whatever, then you can tell us, okay, yes, we vouch for this person. So, we were hearing from some places around the state where there were some LPOs who were like downloading voter files through their access and giving that to candidates, and that's a big no-no. So we definitely want to sort of keep that as streamlined as possible. The DNC does have fairly strict rules around who is able to get access to vote builder. And so we would need any sort of changes to that process would need a sort of larger conversation and would need to go all the way up to the DNC.
So they do have to come through the LPO. There is not a direct route like candidate to the state party.
Oh, yes, they can do that. Yes. But then what we do is that we turn around and we figure out what jurisdiction they're running in. And we ask you all, you typically ask the county or the LD chair if they know who that person is. And that's a part of the sign off and process of them getting signed up for vote builder.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Beth. And thanks for those questions, and Shasti for fielding those questions. So we'll go to the delegate selection timeline, but I'd just say, just given the time that we have and the time that we've just spent on those questions, and in the interest of time, we'll just get the update, and then if people have questions, maybe they can circle back, because there was a lot of discussion about this previously. So we'll just have a timeline, then we'll move on with the agenda.
Okay, great. And I want to give kudos to Anna Lee, who's on the line and is our operations director and helped put the presentation together. So a big thank you to Anna. So many of you, I'm sure you've heard about the delegate selection affirmative action plan. The state committee passed it in May. We are now heading into the sort of height of the delegate sort of process and season. Anna, can you share, or can someone share the?
Yes, I will share it. PowerPoint made it very ugly, and that's unacceptable. So just give me 1 second.
So you all know, I'm sure, that March 12th is the presidential primary. That has a typical 3-week sort of early voting period, ballots drop, and then 3 weeks for folks who have identified as Democrats to participate. That will determine the number of delegates that the various presidential candidates who have qualified to get onto the ballot receive. As of now, no one has turned in the signatures. My understanding is that the Biden campaign is very close. We did hear that Dean Phillips' campaign is also gathering signatures right now. We have not heard of any other potential candidates at this time that are gathering signatures, but that certainly can change. And so then there are 2 conventions that you'll hear us talk about that will happen in 2024. There is the state convention that will happen at the end of June. We are still locking in a location, but many of you probably went to the one that was in Tacoma in 22, and we are looking at probably also like Tacoma or Olympia, where the state convention will be. And then there's the national convention, which was happening in Chicago, August 15th through the 19th, I believe. We have an excellent hotel in Chicago. We're close. Some of you who were around for 2020 will remember that the convention was going to be in Milwaukee and our hotel was in Chicago. And so this time it is going to be probably more like a 20-30 minute drive to the convention rather than a 2.5-hour drive. So sort of explanation and schedule. So for the state convention, the LDs, so all of the LDs overall will elect 980 delegates and 490 alternates. LDs that meet affirmative action goals will get additional delegates. And we have released a white paper that we sent out I want to say in June, that had the exact numbers of delegates for each LD. We will send that out again, and we will work with each of the LDs to go through exactly what your numbers are, what your affirmative action goals are, so that you are confident and comfortable and know exactly what all of your delegate allotments are. For the national convention, Washington has a total of 111 delegates and 8 alternates. The different types of delegates are automatic and elected. So automatic are those who have in some way already they've like held an office before, and they're sort of granted automatic delegate status. Elected are what you all will mostly be doing and be a part of the process of helping people run for delegates and then be elected to be delegates at the state convention and then at the national convention. Or for them, sorry. Okay, Anna, next slide. So for the national convention, the automatic delegates are the DNC members who reside here in Washington, Democratic members of Congress, and Governor Inslee. And then the elected are 60, there's 60 congressional district delegates who will get elected. So they'll go through the process of from county to congressional districts. And then there are 12 what you'll hear called PLEO delegates, which are party leader and elected officials. And then there are 20 at-large delegates and 8 alternates. And then for the state convention, all state central committee members are automatic. And then the DNC members, county and LD organization chairs, the members of Congress, statewide elected officials, and the Democratic state legislators are all automatic delegates to the state convention. And then elected, which is the process that you all will also be overseeing and a part of, is that each LD is allocated either 20 or 25 delegates and 10 alternates. And then LDs may receive up to 10 bonus delegates through meeting their affirmative action goals. Paul, I saw your hand shoot up.
Yeah, just a question clarification. Do automatic delegates count against the LD allotment for the state?
No.
Okay.
David McDonald, that's right. Right?
That is
It doesn't.
correct. This is correct.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So the allotments that we talked about, like through the DSAP process, and what we will walk through each of the LDs with, those are separate from the automatic. Those are just strictly the elected allotments.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, so then the timelines and dates to be aware of. So on April 1st, the deadlines for LDs to submit membership lists ahead of the LD caucuses. And then also the LD delegate candidates to state convention need to file their intent to run. The way that we are doing this is that we as the state party, we will be implementing the mechanisms to vote for delegates. So there will be a website for each LD that has the sort of bios and the information about the delegates, and then the ability to vote for those delegates. But you all will be in charge of figuring out the ways to, like, do you want to hold a forum where delegates can introduce themselves and answer questions? Do you want to have some kind of social, like the other sort of informal ways for delegates, or do you want to do something that's like how to become a delegate, and here's how to get involved in the local party organization? You all will do all of those pieces, but we will be running the actual like voting process to take that off of the administrative side of it, to take that off of everybody's plate. So that's what these dates kind of are talking about. So then on April 6th, we will hold the LD caucuses. And that's when people will vote. And then in May, on May 12th, there will be a deadline for congressional district delegate candidates to national convention who will need to file their intent to run and their candidate pledge form. And then on May 18th, there will be the CD caucuses. And then in June, there will be a deadline for PLEO and at-large delegate candidates to national convention to file intent to run in their candidate pledge. On the 9th, there'll be PLEO and at-large national convention delegate and alternate elections. And then the state convention will happen around June 22nd, 23rd. And then in August is when, I knew the dates were wrong, the 19th through the 22nd is when the August national convention will be. So the resources, so the DSAP is on the state party's website under the tab that says about the party, and then it says party documents. So all of that information, it is a big, massive, like 80-page document, but all of the information is all right in there. Page 52 is the timeline that goes into more specifics of the dates that are coming up, and all of the all that information is in the plan, and that is accessible on our website. Drew Eastup, who you all should know, can answer any questions that you have related to the delegate selection, caucuses, and conventions, and his email. He's out until Thursday, but he can answer any questions that you may have. And then we, at our January state committee meeting, which is going to be the last weekend of January up in Bellingham, we will be having a day where we are doing trainings that are specifically around the delegate process. We will be inviting all of the LD and county chairs to come up so that they can learn and make sure that they have a full grasp on kind of all this process and kind of best practices and whatnot. So we will be rolling out more resources to help you with sort of navigating this process in the coming months.
Awesome. Thank you, Shasti. Appreciate the update and all the work. And we'll just, in the interest of time, we're going to keep going. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Great to see everybody. Thank you.
Good to see you. Before we move to the update around King County election results, we have a couple of staff members here from our Congress folks. So we have Lizzie from Congresswoman Kim Schreier's office and Sherrod from Congressman Adam Smith's office. So we'll hear from them. Lizzie, you want to go first?
Hi, everyone. Not honestly all of that much to say right now. Update, we all got a few days off for Thanksgiving. Thankfully, no government shutdown. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise. But happy to answer any questions that you all might have. I know it's been a chaotic couple months in Congress. So happy to turn it over to you if there's time.
And maybe what we could do then is have Sherrod go, and then if there are any questions for either of you, we'll take some questions. So why don't we do that, Sherrod?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I think I know most of you. For those of you who I don't know, nice to meet you guys all. My name is Sherrod, as Jeremy just mentioned. Excited to get to know and meet all of you guys in person. No big update. I wasn't expecting to speak, so I'll put my email in the chat if anyone has anything. I'm happy to connect.
Yeah, but happy to take a couple questions if there's time and if people have them. Oh, and I'm Kim Shire's political director. I don't remember if I said that or not.
All right, going once. Going twice. All right. Thank you both for being here, and we'll keep the chat.
Who's he representing again? I'm sorry, who's he representing again?
Sure,
I'm for Congressman Adam Smith. So
Adam Smith, thank you.
Yeah,
sorry
no
to butt in, but I wanted to ask before I leave. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you both. So we'll move to Alexander, who's going to give a recap of the King County GOTV efforts and election results.
Yeah, excuse me. Hi, everyone. So we had a very ambitious calendar of 18 events for King County's GOTV effort. Due to some personal reasons, not all of the events were as big of successes as I would have wanted them to be, but I'm still really proud of the results. This was our first time trying it, and excuse me, and I'm just happy that we were able to hold events pretty much in just about every single, in a race that touched almost every single LD in King County. And I got to meet a lot of really amazing people, and a lot of whom won their elections, which makes me really happy. Looking at our list of endorsed candidates, I believe we had around a 68% win percentage of the candidates that we endorsed, and that excludes candidates that we endorsed who are unopposed, because I feel like that's kind of cheating if we count that toward our win total. But yeah, so in total, we elected, I believe, 93 endorsed candidates, and we lost 35 races. Obviously, some races are more important to some people than others, but we're still really happy with those results across the county, that more than 2/3 of the candidates that we endorsed ended up becoming elected officials. In addition, the GOTV efforts were a great opportunity for the candidates to both form relationships with each other, as well as to start forming relationships with the LDs in the area that they will represent, as well as the county party. So yeah, I'm very happy with the results. I am trying to kind of put together a retrospective analysis of what could have been done better, so that next time, if we do try to do this again at the county level, we can avoid some of the pitfalls that we had at this time. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Also, if you have any feedback on our events and our scheduling, please feel free to email me. I can drop my email in the chat, but I will take questions now.
Thanks, Alexander. Any questions? Any questions? Going once? Andrew.
Hi, this is, I don't know if this is going to come up later, but this is not much of a question, but an observation. And this is the third year in a row I am bringing this up, is how we still have racist process in our endorsements. Our endorsement process still is still racist in its way, without knowing it is racist. And I am hugely disappointed that an organization that would always want to put out statements regarding Black Lives Matter, regarding minority rights, will still do an endorsement process based on racism. This is the third year in a row I am complaining on how racist our endorsement process is. And I really think we need to take a deep dive into this process.
Yeah, I am not really in a position to respond to that, but I definitely appreciate you raising your concern.
Thanks, Andrew. And I know we've had conversations about looking at the elections, the results from that, to kind of pick out and determine what are some changes that we might consider moving forward. So thanks for raising it in this venue too. Anybody's interested in volunteering, please comment in the chat if you're interested in that effort. Bunny?
Yeah, you had mentioned that you would have liked to see things a little better. I guess what I'm asking is, what did you need from us as members of KCDCC or as PCOs or whatever other office we hold that you didn't get? What did you need that we didn't give you?
Yeah, so part of the reason things didn't go the way that I wished was we started out with a team of 4 people working on the events, which was 18 events over 4 weekends, which was a very ambitious goal. And toward the end, it was I was carrying most of that to get it over the finish line. And then I also, my partner had to undergo back surgery during the run up to the election, which strained my ability to carry out what had been planned really since starting in June.
You didn't have any backup. Okay.
Yeah, so that was really where I think a lot of the shortfall was. I think there was, in terms of from the LDs, I think the 34th and 33rd did really, really great with the events in Burien. Those were some of the better events that we had. So I don't really have any notes for you guys. But it really, I think what I noticed is that the events where the candidates and the LDs were really invested in putting on the events were the ones that had the most success. And so from my perspective, it's both about making sure that the LDs understand what I'm asking of them well ahead of time, and being able to make sure that stuff is happening. But also holding events in areas where the LDs want to hold events. And, you know, if the LDs are telling me, yeah, we're not really wanting to have an event here, not trying to force that, because that, you know, that's not going to work. So
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Thank
Mary.
you. But thank you for what you did.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, Mary, go ahead.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
So this is more just a comment than really a question. I think our LD was one of the ones that, had a few hitches, no question. At the same time, I will just say that I was so thrilled when I heard this effort was going to get started. And I personally am kind of willing to chalk it up to, just going through it the first time, taking the hard knocks and moving forward with lessons learned, because I think it's a fantastic program and I'm really excited about trying it again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thanks, Mary. Any other questions before we move on? Getting close to our time. All right. Thanks, Alex. Really appreciate the work that you put into organizing LDs around King County to get out the vote. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, moving on to 2024 key dates, but before I hand it over to Melissa to talk about that, just wanted to say we have endorsements coming up, of course. So we're planning to bring a draft in January, a draft endorsement questionnaire and proposed rule changes. And we'll send emails out later in the very near term with ways that you can engage and participate in that process, as well as a timeline. So just wanted to make you all aware of that. Melissa, I'm going to speak to key dates.
Okay, I can add myself as a spotlight. So this went out with the call to meeting, but just because I know sometimes email can get overwhelming, I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to highlight this and see if folks had questions. Shasti already helpfully covered a lot of the party related things. As a reminder, we have a filing period December 4th through 8th for the King Conservation District. We have also a filing period December 11th to 15th for drainage districts. I hope that when we look at moving conservation district elections, we also look at standardizing drainage district elections. There is a state committee meeting on December 9th that is virtual. And then the drainage district election is January 17th through Feb 6th. There's a special election, which has, I think about 15 jurisdictions have filed to be on the special election ballot. And then the King Conservation District is January 23rd to February 13th. So these all overlap somewhat, but all on 3 separate voting mechanisms. The drainage district, interestingly enough, is by property ownership, not by residency. And so in order to determine if you, and it's not actually only Enumclaw, but there will only be an election if there's multiple candidates. But in order to determine if you are eligible to run or vote, you have to figure out if you own property in the specific district. And we're working on a way to figure that out. But it is not the easiest one. So, and then as Shasti mentioned, we've got then the presidential primary, possibly more special elections in April. Candidate filing, which includes PCO filing, May 6th through May 10th. And then I think we've covered the rest of those plus regular elections, but it is definitely an action-packed party year. And so figuring out how we can all support each other, learn from and leverage the work that each other are doing, so that we're not necessarily repeating work that other LDs are doing, really wanting to make sure that we can all stay in touch about planning this. Because we no longer have precinct caucuses, which we're bringing people into our party every 4 years, these delegate selection processes are our next best opportunity to really engage, especially using the tools and opportunity to get the additional delegates by meeting the affirmative action targets. So I really would love it if every single LD in King County met its affirmative action targets, and would love to work with all of you to do that. I hope these dates are useful. I hope they are not tremendously overwhelming. And as Jeremy mentioned, our next meeting will be in January, at which we will be doing, I think, either some or all. I think the endorsements committee is still looking at schedules for the questionnaires, but also looking at updating rules to do early endorsements. So if you have an interest one way or another in early endorsements, particularly in statewide or state ledge seats, making sure that you're getting your feedback in so that we can try and balance and incorporate all the feedback and get that back out to folks. So I think that's what I have. I see Chris Porter has his hand up.
Thank you, Melissa. Two things. One, will you add the King Conservation appointed seat deadline application, which is usually the end of March?
Oh, yes.
And I will double check that, but usually it's the end of March when the application is due for that. And maybe this isn't directly a question you can answer, but will we be making an endorsement in the upcoming election for the King Conservation District? It still is a county-wide election until it moves to districting. And having won and lost an election, it is crucial to have the support of LDs and the county body in running for this office.
Yeah. Beth, are you on the call?
I am on the call.
All right. Have you all decided whether we will be doing endorsements for the conservation district and what that might look like?
We have not yet considered that, but I do think it's important. I know that we like to do that in my LD, and I would certainly carry that process up to the county level.
So hopefully is what I hear.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Mary?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I have a question about the voter pamphlet. Our bylaws in the 37th LD stipulate that our endorsement meeting must take place the Monday after the conclusion of filing week. So what that means is that the filing closes on Friday afternoon and we have our endorsement meeting on Monday. And the problem and the reason for that is because the voter, you're nodding. Oh, good. Okay. You know where I'm going. The voter pamphlet has typically had its deadline at the end of that week. And so for those candidates who want to put their endorsement in the voter guide, voter pamphlet, whatever, they need to get those endorsements in right away. The problem is, like we, for example, in our endorsement meeting, people come, they have a 1-minute speech. Sometimes you've never even heard of these people because they filed on Friday afternoon. I mean, that's not usually the case, but, you know, I was contrasting that experience to other LDs where they, you know, have 90-minute forums that they've been able to plan for weeks and all that kind of stuff. And so my question is, I thought I heard Carrie in an early meeting this year kind of offhandedly say that the deadline for the voter pamphlet was going to be pushed back because of considerations like this. Because, you know, Carrie comes out of the 37th, so she's seen this firsthand herself. I hadn't heard anything else about that. And I was wondering if anybody knew about that one way or the other.
Can I just pause really quickly so we can extend the meeting? So maybe 8, because I think we have an end time on the agenda for 7:30.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is there a motion to extend the meeting till 8?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mary. Who seconded
With Bunny.
Bunny. Okay. Moved by Mary, seconded by Bunny. Any discussion? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Okay. Thank you. Melissa.
So we're going to get a few extra days. And Hannah, do you remember the exact details from the conversations with Julie's team?
I don't remember those dates.
Yeah, no, I'll take the action item to go back to King County elections. Their lives should be a little bit calmer now, and get some clarity. It wasn't as many days as we had hoped, but it is more than we have had. And so I think your LD is in a similar spot to many other LDs that have been trying to really balance how do we welcome and encourage new candidates by not doing endorsements ahead of filing week, but also make sure that we can provide the best support for the piece of mail that literally goes to every single voter. We will get back to you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I've just been back channeling Beth on this. I don't believe have we ever endorsed in the conservation district before?
We have.
We have. Oh, okay.
And so I don't know if the current rules, like, I don't know what hoops we would have to go through in order to meet the requirements of the current rules. But in previous iterations, for instance, when Chris won his race, we did an endorsement. And I think starting in 2018, maybe not in 2018, but in 2019, perhaps. I'll look and see if I can find any details of how that works.
Melissa, I can refresh your memory. 2019 was the first year in which KCD addressed the King Conservation District election and did endorse, and then in 2020 endorsed again. Okay. And then we didn't do it in 2022 for whatever the reason. So yes, those are 2021 is what I should say. 2022. Yes, I'm right. Yes. Okay, that's all.
All right. Kat, did that answer?
Yeah. So I think then and Beth will speak to this as we move forward with endorsement planning, then probably that would get lifted up in the priority list since that election comes earlier. So we, try to address that first.
I was just going to add, as the chair at the time who helped in this space, the endorsements committee did create like a 1-page questionnaire for the conservation district, and that was approved. I think we moved that through. Chris remembers, I had to fill it out, and then I believe we had to move up the timing of the meeting in January in order to be able to take that vote. In the last 2 years, I believe what we did instead was we invited all of the candidates to speak in front of the body, and then we did an endorsement off of the floor. We did not do that in 2022, I think because of timing, but I do remember, and I believe in 21, that is how we handled it.
Thank you. And I will just also congratulate and share a bit of history that when Shasti started focusing on the King Conservation District, we went from 6 people voting in that election, and usually only one candidate, to 1,000 people voting, and now I think 10 or 15,000 people vote in that election. So that is an election where we've definitely been able to make a difference by making sure that candidates knew about the filing deadline. I remember telling Chris Porter at a 34th meeting about it, and also then making sure that our voters, particularly our PCOs, because this is almost a countywide election. There's a couple of jurisdictions that opt out, but it is nearly a countywide election where only 15,000 people vote. So we can make a huge difference there, and so we should try.
Awesome. If there are no further questions, thank you, Melissa, for walking us through the key dates. All right, we are at good of the order. Is there anyone who would like to speak for the good of the order? Chris,
yeah.
Chris, you got it.
Was that a question, or I can go? Okay,
You can go. Yeah.
I was asked to talk about the King County minimum wage resolution that is going through a number of LDs. The 34th is certainly supporting it, and certainly want others to sign on, as well as the King County Democrats. And I wanted to put the resolution in the chat box. I don't know if I send it to Melissa and she can, or how that would work. But anyway, just wanted to do a shout out about needing King County Democrats' support on bringing pay equity and a little more fairness to unincorporated King County, as they work just as hard as anyone else.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, if you could put that in the chat, and one of us will paste it for folks to see.
I cannot find pardon me, but I cannot find the place to raise my hand. I've got a question to ask the person who just spoke.
Okay.
I can't find the, I feel
Find
like.
reactions at the bottom of your screen.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I knew it had to be here. Okay, my hand's raised.
Okay, thanks, Judy. We'll get around to you there. Shasti.
I just wanted to say that we are having a holiday party at our new office space, which we moved into in August and September, which is on First Avenue, right across the street from basically Pike Place Market, on December 12th. And that party will be at 5:30. We would love for any and all of you to come. It should be really fun. And I'll make sure to drop the link in there, but would love to see everybody. And I think Bob Ferguson, Attorney General Bob Ferguson is likely to speak. And then we will probably have some of our victors from the 2023 cycle in attendance as well, and we'd love to see you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shasti. And chat is open now, so everybody can post links as they wish. Mary.
Hi, I am proud to say I have signed up for the party that Shasti just mentioned. Looking forward to that. Specifically, I wanted to say that our LD has a member who's very involved in the Vietnamese community. And because of that, we are going to have a booth at the Tet Festival, which is February 3rd and 4th. And not to get too much in the weeds, but he has told us that the community is fairly diffuse throughout the county. It's not all concentrated in one area. And so we're hoping that it's possible that some other LD or LDs might be interested in partnering with us on this booth. If anybody is interested in partnering with us on this booth, I'm going to put my email in the chat, which I just did. And I just want to say that we've considered this an opportunity because we really need much more outreach in the Asian community, broadly speaking. And according to this member, the Vietnamese community are currently heavily Trump voters. And so we're hoping to kind of make some inroads in that community and do some outreach in that way. So something to consider. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. Roger?
Yeah, thank you. The Indivisible group in Issaquah, Indivisible Washington 8th District, is going to be having a demonstration on January 6th. We did it last year. We had about 30 people show up, and I think they're going to do the same plan. They're going to walk about a mile across Issaquah. This year, January 6th falls on a Saturday, making it a lot easier for people to show up. I'm sure hoping that Democrats will show up from King County and make this a bigger demonstration than we had last year. I think it's important to keep that issue before the people, and just to remind, I think people tend to forget. And so come out on January 6th and march with us in Issaquah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger. Judy? Judy Gibbs?
Second. I have a question. Sorry, I had to unmute. I have a question on that county minimum wage thing. Is that only unincorporated areas? Because there are places like Bellevue that where the minimum, where I think the just state minimum wage applies. Like there are places in Bellevue that pay $16.50 an hour, which is ridiculous. And I'm wondering if that county minimum wage is only unincorporated, or if it could include some of the low wage areas that don't currently have a decent minimum wage.
Thanks, Judy. Chris, you want to respond?
Yeah, so the resolution, the resolution is specifically calling out unincorporated areas in King County, wherever they may be. Now, whether or not jurisdictions find a work around that, we can't know that. But it is to try to bring pay equity to employees working in unincorporated King County areas in which there is not a standard for a minimum wage. There just is the wage that's available.
And that's also true in places like Bellevue, which is a high cost of living. And, you know, like other places are $18, $15, $19 an hour stuff. And I think Bellevue just has a state minimum wage.
I think we have I think our minimum wage is a little higher than the state, but that being said, Carmen just posted that minimum wage is a city measure. So Bellevue City Council would need to adopt it.
So we couldn't do something county-wide. We couldn't work on a county-wide minimum wage.
I don't know that so the county I don't think has jurisdiction over incorporated parts of King County.
Okay,
So.
well, I can tell you that in Bellevue it's legal to pay $16.50 an hour, maybe less than that. And the state minimum is $15.75, and I think it's going to go up next year. So Bellevue's, expensive as it is just about at minimum wage.
All right. Thanks, Judy. We're going to move on to Tim Burns.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just wanted to announce that the 30th LD, in lieu of our regular meeting on the first Wednesday, which is December 6th, we'll have a potluck holiday party. And it will be at the normal time, 6:30 at the Shag Housing on Pack Highway in Federal Way. All are welcome. Bring something to share.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. If you have details to put in the chat, that would be helpful. Thank you. Kat?
Well, following Tim's lead, the 41st actually has a holiday party and fundraiser, and Congressman Adam Smith is going to be there. He has a new book. It's a really powerful, amazing book. It's called Lost and Broken. I have a copy here. Thanks to Chirag, we'll have some copies there if you don't have a copy and want to buy a copy. And Congressman Smith will not only talk, but he will also autograph books. I will drop the link into chat for anyone who's interested in signing up. That is Sunday, December 17th from 11 to 3.
I'm also going to say thank you to both you and Chirag, Kat, for structuring that deal of having books at the holiday party. So thank you both.
Hey, I'm always willing to ask.
Yeah. Thank you. Melissa?
Yeah, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Hannah Floss, who does an amazing job organizing our election observers every cycle. And then also wanted to encourage everybody to contact King County Elections and tell them how much you appreciate them. I will just say that I encouraged my dad to sign up as an election observer this year. And the day we were supposed to do training, there was a physical threat in the building. And the day we were supposed to go observe was the day that there was white powder mailed to the building. And so our King County Elections team has been through a lot this election cycle, working their butts off and finding ways to just keep going in the middle of what is a fairly hostile environment. And so I'm going to drop the email for the county elections team in the chat, but just really wanted you all to know what they went through and also that they could probably use some kudos.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. And thanks so much, Hannah, for your commitment in that process. Okay. Chris?
Jeremy, I'm so sorry to circle back because what Melissa said, I meant to cover because I went through that training as an election observer. And this is not the first time I've done it. In previous iterations, Democrats have always outnumbered Republicans in this training, and it was the reverse. The danger here is that even during that active training portion, Republicans were doing what they could do to cast doubt on the integrity and validity of the system, challenging things like, well, isn't it possible that letter carriers can like pull out certain ballots that, you know, are in their system, not fully understanding how that process even works. And that, you know, many of the letters that we receive in the mail are scanned in this huge system that processes 1 million pieces of mail an hour, and that we can see that. It would be detrimental to someone's limb to try to snatch them out of a circuit. Things like that. You know, questioning whether or not people who sign as witnesses on the ballot are verified as citizens. I mean, it went on and on. We have a duty to try to bring far more balance to that than there is right now. Right now, we are at a deficit, and I had to shut down a lot of crazy conversations during that training because the thing now is just simply to cast doubt on a system that is revered across the world. They have a huge map of all the jurisdictions and countries that come to King County elections to look at their process and how they handle elections. And we cannot just sit back and allow a few local folks to just cast doubt on a premier system that people from around the world want to learn how to build and do. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you raising that awareness. If there's no further good of the order and no further business, Tim Burns.
Mr. Chair, on behalf of the delegation, I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye, or any objection? All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Happy holidays.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
We don't meet in December, correct?
We will not meet in December, so our next meeting will be in January.
Great, thank you.
See you next
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. I was going to say, see you next year or at a holiday party.
Right.
Hey, Lisa Rivera, who's on the call. Congratulations again on winning your election.
Yay.
Thank you.